Rajeshatanayas Tadham Vrindavanam Ramya Kachidupasana Brajavadu Vargena Taya Kalpita Srimat Bhagavata Puranayamalam Prema Pumartho Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Mataidam Nayatrayagra Paraha. Vandiham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ajanulambita Bhujo Kanakaya Vidhato Sankirtanai Pitaro Kamalayataksho Vishwambharo Dijavaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priya Karo Karuna Avatar Patit Pavan Nitai Gaur Sundar Ki Jai Patit Pavan Nitai Gaur Sundar Ki Jai Patit Pavan Nitai Gaur Sundar Ki Jai Parama Karuna Pahudvi Jana Nitai Gaur Chandra Sabay Avatar Sar Shiromani Kevalayananda Kanda Bhajo Bhajo Bhai Chaitanya Nitai Sudruda Vishwas Kori Vishaya Chhadiya Se Rashe Majhiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari पतित पावन निताई गौर सुंदर की जय श्री कृष्णाज कविराज गोस्वामी ठाकुर की जय श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु चरित्र चैतन्य चरितामृत की जय श्री रामानंद राय महाप्रभु संवाद की जय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Today is Sunday, the 2nd of February. Today is Sunday, the 13th of February, 2022. Welcome to the Bhaktivedanta Bhagavad group. And this is a very special occasion today, very auspicious day, Varaha Dwadashi, and tomorrow is the divine appearance of Nityananda Prabhu. So happy Varaha Dwadashi and happy Nityananda Trayodashi. May Lord Nityananda, who is the Adi Guru and the most compassionate, be merciful unto us so that we can be purified and enter into pure bhakti. Nityanand Ram ki jai. So last time we had entered into the part of Chaitanya Charitamrita wherein if we just simply recap a little bit, in the recap, we will find that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had actually visited South India, and he had gone to the Jiyad Narsingha temple, offering his obeisance to Narsinghadev, wonderful dancing, wonderful kirtan. And before he left Jagannath Puri, Srila Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the chief priest in King Prataparudra's court, had requested Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to meet Ramanand Rai, who happened to be the minister of Vidyanagar under King Prataparudra. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after taking darshan of Jiyad Narsingha, he left towards that area in ecstasy to meet his wonderful devotee and his eternal associate, Rai Ramananda. Rai Ramananda, it has been described in the first verse of this particular chapter that he is known as the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known as the ocean of all devotional knowledge, and he empowered Ramanand Rai, who is described like a cloud laden with devotional service or bhakti, and this cloud filled with the water of all conclusive purports of devotional service, all conclusive. As we will go into the verses, we will find that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has asked Ramanand Rai questions, and it has to be based on Shastric evidence. So Ramanand Rai has visited different Shastras, bona fide Shastras like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and many wonderful conclusive literatures of bhakti. So he was so much empowered and full of laden with that cloud of pure bhakti, with the devotional purports, and he rained, that cloud rained on Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the ocean itself. Just like when there is a huge thunderstorm, it also rains on the ocean. But where does the water come from? The water comes from the ocean itself. When the ocean evaporates due to the heat of the sun, it forms clouds. And then when it is laden with a lot of water, condensation, then the cloud bursts. And it even showers the source of its own origin, which is the ocean. So beautifully, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has, in a very poetic way, he has described the role of Rai Ramananda, who poured his waters on the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, who is the ocean. And Mahaprabhu became filled with jewels of knowledge of pure devotional service. So it is said that, correct me if I'm wrong, but the jewels in the ocean, it is said that they are formed especially when the rain falls, and then by some natural phenomenon, it actually is accumulated in certain what is the word? Uh, the For lack of words, I'm using the word shell, but there's another better word for it. And then when the moon shines, they become pearls. The real pearls are found in the depth of the oceans. Nowadays, we don't find that many real pearls, and even if you do, they're very expensive. Most of the pearls are cultured in tanks in factories, uh, but they're not like the real pearls. So the showering of Rayaramananda was like jewels that showered into the ocean himself, which is Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reached the banks of the Godavari, Mahaprabhu was very effulgent. He was adorned in his sannyas dress, and he shone like uh, thousands of suns. And at that time, in the evening time, during the Trikal Sandhya, when the sun was about to set, Ramanand Rai, who was the minister of Vidyanagar, it was his daily custom and routine to come to the Godavari and pray and offer prayers to the Godavari, offer oblations to the Godavari, along with many wonderful Vedic Brahmins who chanted along with his security, personal, and other uh, uh, associates in the kingdom. There were kettle drums and there were all kinds of musical instruments playing, because the minister is as good as the king of that state or that province. So with all fanfare, he was accompanied by the musicians, and they came to the banks of the Godavari. And when Ramanand Rai from far, he saw an effulgent personality who was very tall, uh, very well built, and his eyes were like lotus petals. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was seated at one end on the bank of the Godavari, and he then uh, Ramanand Rai immediately approached and offered his prostrated dandavats, obeisances to Mahaprabhu. And that is the system in our Vedic culture. Whenever we see a sadhu, we must offer our respects. And the best way to offer respects is to offer dandavats, like a fallen stick on the ground. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very ecstatic seeing Ramanand Rai, and he Mahaprabhu himself got up. He was in a seated posture, and he lifted Ramanand Rai and asked him, "Are you Ramanand Rai?" And Ramanand Rai very humbly says, "Yes, I am this unfortunate fallen servant, a Shudra." And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu uh, hugged him, and they both went into ecstasy. Tears of joy were uh, streaming from both these personalities, and they rolled on the ground and they swooned, they fainted out of prema. That is what happens when one is in pure uh, love of Godhead, love of God, Krishna prema. Then these are some symptoms. And Krishnaraj Kaviraj Goswami describes the Ashtasattvic vikaras, wherein the hairs was standing on an end, and the voice was faltering, and there was perspiration, and there was shivering, and then the body turned pale. There was some discoloration of the body. So, and streams of tears flowing from the eyes. So these are uh, they became like statues. They became very like stambhas, completely like as if they are paralyzed. So these are some of the symptoms known as the Ashtasattvic vikaras, or the transformations, when one goes into a very special samadhi, when one goes into ecstasy in Krishna prema. So like this, the meeting happens, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraces Rayaramananda very firmly, and their natural love for each other was awakened. The reason is because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Nandanandan Sri Krishna, Shyam Sundar Krishna, uh, in Golok Vrindavan, who has descended. And when he descends, always his associates always descend. Whether he descends in his original form in Vrindavan, Bhaumya Vrindavan, or if he descends himself in the most magnanimous avatar as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhakti Vinod Thakur ji has said, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jibe Doya Kori Swaparshad Siyo Dham Saha Autari Attant Durlabha Prema Kori Baredan Sikhaye Sharanagati Bhakate Ro Pran. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Daya Kori, after out of pure compassion for the fallen souls or for the souls in the material world, Swaparshad Siyo Dham, he came along with his own associates. So here, who is the associate in particular in this particular chapter that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes? His associate is none other than Vishakha Sakhi, who appeared as Ramanand Rai. Lalita and Vishakha are the two best friends of Radharani, and they also appeared in Chaitanya Leela, and many other associates from Golok Vrindavan, they appeared. But here, exclusive meeting happens between Rayaramanand, who is none other than Vishakha Sakhi. So Swaparshad, the Siyo Dham, and along with that, Krishna descends along with his Dham. He comes down with his Dham on this earthly planet. So when in Dwapar Yuga, Krishna personally came, not only all his associates appeared, he himself appeared in Sri Vrindavan Dham, in Mathura Mandal or Vraj Mandal, in the northern state of India known as Uttar Pradesh. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, he also brought that dham from Golok Vrindavan, which is known as Mayapur Navadvip. And Navadvip is non-different from Vrindavan. It has been wonderfully explained by the Rasik Acharyas in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Navadvip is known as Chhana Vrindavan. Chhana means secret, or it is covered. Chhana Vrindavan. And actually Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that in Golok Vrindavan there is a division or a prakoshta where there is actually an area known as Mayapur and Navadvip in the eternal Golok Vrindavan. And eternally Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exists there along with Lord Nityananda and his associates in their forms that they appeared on this earthly planet. They are eternally present, and also they are eternally present in the original forms in the Vraj Leela or in Golok Vrindavan. So, like this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they then both of them, they curtailed themselves because their ecstasy was so much that they had to set back, because there were other brahmanas and other people that Ramanand Rai was accompanied with were watching, and they were thinking, what is going on here? We can see that a sannyasi has a luster, the effulgence of Brahman. That was in one of the shlokas. So here the brahmanas, we can clearly see that they were interested in the Brahman aspect of the expansion of the Supreme Lord, or the Brahma Jyoti, and their main goal is always to merge into the Brahman, and that is very in one sense offensive, because they want to become God, the Mayavadis and the Brahmavadis, and they deny the existence of a form of the Lord. They say that there is no Bhagavan, there is nothing, they are nirgun. They do not have any and they do not have any form. So nirgun, nirvisesh. They so like this, and although they are studying the Vedas, they were expert in chanting the mantras. Obviously, they could not understand because they were not pure devotees. One can be an expert in the Vedas, they can become Vedantists, but only the Bhakti Vedantist, one who has understood the conclusion of the Vedanta. Vedanta means Veda, means knowledge, spiritual and material, and especially here it concerns spiritual knowledge, and Anta means conclusion. So Vedanta. So Vedantists generally are Mayavads and Brahmavadis. They try to interpret the Vedas in such a way that they see themselves as the Brahman, a spirit, and their ultimate goal is to merge into the Brahman, the supreme spirit. And once you merge, then there is no form. This form, according to them, is because of Maya. Because of Maya, illusion, we are seeing things. Just like somebody who is illusory in nature, or is drunk, or is under the influence of some substances, starts imagining, manokalpana. They start imagining, and that imagination is due to certain influence of the three modes of material nature: tamogun, rajagun, and satogun. The mode of ignorance, the mode of passion, and the mode of goodness. So these three modes are the comprise of what is known as the external energy of the Lord, known as Maya, or it is also known as Bahiranga Shakti of Krishna. So Bahiranga Shakti makes us keeps us under the illusion of what we are not. Ma ya. Ma means not, and ya means this. If you break the word, if you do Sandhi Viched in Sanskrit, if you break down the word Maya, it comprises two words. Ma means not, and ya means this. So in this material world, in this samsara, everybody is mostly under the influence of Maya, except the pure devotees. They cannot come under the control of Maya. And even the biggest demigods, or the Devi Devatas, they are under the influence of Maya. That has been perfectly substantiated in the very first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam by Srila Vyasadeva, wherein Srila Vyasadeva says, Om Janmadi Yasya Yatvanvayat Itaratascha Artheshva Abhigya Swarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye Muhyanti Yat Suraya. Muhyanti Yat Suraya. Suraya means the Devi Devatas, the demigods, like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Ganesh, and so many. The 33 crore Devi Devatas. Muhyanti. Muhyanti means illusion. They are put into illusion. How? Muhyanti Yat Suraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo. Due to the interaction in this material world of fire, Tejo, Vari, and Mridam, earth and water, when that interaction happens, Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo. Vinimayo means the interaction. Vinimaya. Yatra Trisargo Amrusha. And then what happens? One sees Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam. One can see, due to illusory effect of the heat or fire and water and earth, sometimes we see illusion just like a mirage, due to the interaction of these modes of material nature. So just like a mirage in the desert, in a hot desert, appears that, oh, in a distance we see a beautiful body of water. And even the animals sometimes run, or even men who run out of water, they try to chase the water because they're so thirsty that they want to quickly get to the water in the desert. But as they keep running, the mirage keeps going further. And finally, out of fatigue, exhaustion, out of the sunstroke, they die. The animals die. Many men die in a desert due to mirage. And similarly, that is our situation, that Maya creates a mirage. We think that we are these bodies, which we are not. Maya. What we are not, we are thinking. We are a spirit soul. That is our original identity. Jiver Sharup Hoy, Krishna Nityadas, and we are eternal servants of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. And otherwise, this body is not our real identity, because some of us are born in a particular part of the world. We identify ourselves as Americans, Canadians. We identify ourselves as Gujaratis. We identify ourselves as Bengalis, Punjabis, etc. But we are not this body. We are a spirit soul. So all these, so that is because we are feeling all these things is due to that mithya ahankar. Ahankar vimudatma karta hamiti prakriti kriyamanani gunai karm gunai gunai karmani sarvasa ahankar vimudatma karta hamiti manyate. So because due to the influence of Maya, we think of many things besides our real constitutional position, which is we are eternal servants of Krishna and we are eternal spirit souls. So these Brahmins, due to their influence being, although they were in the sattvic mode, but Satogun is also a bandhan, or it is a trap. It is something that keeps us tied down. A guna, Triguna, Krishna describes that in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Nistray Bhava Guna Arjuna. Please go beyond these three modes of material nature. What are the three modes of material nature? Tamo, Rajo, and Sato. So one has to go even beyond the Sato Gun, the mode of goodness. So which these Brahmins were still somewhere in there in the mode of goodness, and pure bhakti is beyond that. That is called Shuddha Sattvam. One who is on a platform of Brahma Bhuta, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma, na shrochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhakti labhyate param. Those who have entered into that state of consciousness and that realization that I am a spirit soul, Brahma Bhuta, Prasanna Atma, is always very happy because he is a devotee. Na shrochati na kankshati is never lamenting or are never hankering after material things. So those who are hankering after material things, including Satogun, then they cannot be on the Brahma Bhuta platform and not on their original constitutional position as Krishna Nityadas. So if one attains that full realization that I am a spirit soul and I am a servant of Krishna, then Krishna says, Mad Bhakti Labhate Param. Then one can obtain my topmost bhakti, pure bhakti, amala bhakti, spotless bhakti. Because other kinds of bhakti that are there are Gyan Mishra Bhakti and so many different Karma Mishra Bhakti, etc. So there is some level of some bhakti, but there is also mixed with different modes of material nature or qualities that lead to materialism. So these Brahmins could not understand that. And they were thinking that this Rayaramananda is our governor of Madras. Actually, Vidyanagar was Madras at that modern today, Madras. And he's a very learned person, which he was, and indeed, he was a Mahapandit, Rayaramananda. But upon touching a sannyasi, he has become restless like a madman, like a crazy person. So they could not understand that. Obviously, only pure devotees can understand that. So when they regained their sanity, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramanand Rai, at that time they were now very careful about restraining their emotions, their transcendental emotions. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned that Sarvavadavacharya has spoken of your very good qualities, and he made a great endeavor to convince me to meet you. So therefore, my purpose here in this South Indian trip in particular, that I've come here to the Godavari banks of Vidyanagar, is to meet you. So this was the synopsis in case if somebody has missed out. I know there are some people who follow on online the recordings, and just to keep the continuity for the benefit of all, some who cannot be present personally, I kind of recap the Leela or the pastime. So now we continue further. Toma mila bare mora ethe agamana etha agamana bhala hoila anayashe pailuri darshana. So Mahaprabhu says that Toma bilibare mora etha आगमन भाल होइला अन्यासे पायलू दर्शन Toma milibare, jo meeting you, myself, more etha agamana. And that was the reason why I came. Agaman means to come to that place. Bhala hoila. So it is very good. Ana yashe. And without much problems, pailu darshana. It was easy for me. It was not so difficult that I had to find you or ask people around about where I can find Ramanand Rai. It was very easy, just the way we met. So further, he says, Raya kahe sarvabhauma kore bhritya jnano parokshe morahi te hoye savdhana. Rai kahe sarvabhauma kore bhritya jnana parokshe hamora hite hoy savdhana. So Ramanand Rai said that Sarvavadacharya, Bhritta Gyan, he thinks of me as his servant. Bhritta means servant. There is another nice verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, very simple but very powerful. Ekla Ishwara Krishna or Shrab Bhritta. There is only one Supreme Lord, and the rest of them are Bhritta. Bhritta means servant. So I am the servant of Sarvavadacharya. So this is a lot of humility. Although Sarvavadacharya was a Brahmavad, he was a Jnani of a very top order, but not a pure devotee. But by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was converted to pure devotion. So Rayaramananda, there is no question. He was always in pure devotion, whether here in this world or in the spiritual world. But although because of that, he shows great respect for Sarvavadacharya by saying that Bhritta Jnana, he thinks of me as his servant, Parokshena, Mora Hite. And he's always, even in my absence, he's always thinking of good things about me for my benefit. Mora Hite. Hit means benefit. Hoy Savdhan, and he's always very careful. So here he is eulogizing Sarvavadacharya. This is some of the things that we need to learn in terms of Vaishnava etiquette. When Mahaprabhu mentioned that, oh, Sarvavadacharya has asked me to see you, he speaks very highly of you. So Ramananda says, no, actually I am his servant. That is the way he takes a demeanor. So we have to also learn from these conversations. These are just not just conversations with a lot of ras, but there's also a lot of tattva, a lot of fundamental philosophies that will help us in our sadhana as devotees. Otherwise, we will become jnanis and brahmavadis and mayavadis who are very proud, who are extremely full of false ego. They are full of pride, false pride. So always we should take the humble position. Like Mahaprabhu has mentioned, we studied the Chaitanya Sishtastakam 22 weeks. We did that. We started last year during Gaur Purnima, and it continued almost for 6 months. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the third verse says, Trinadapi suni chena taro iva saishtanam amanena manidena kirtanya sadahari. One should be humbler than a blade of grass. Trinadapi suni chena taro iva saishtanam. One should be more tolerant or tolerant like a tree. And what is the other two qualities one should have? Amanena. One should not expect any respect for the self. Manadena. And give respect to others. These four things. Humble than a blade of grass, tolerant like a tree, not expecting respect for the self, and always giving respect to all. So these are the four things, are the prerequisites if one wants to do Kirtanya Sadahari, if one wants to do pure Harinam. These are the prerequisites. Of course, that does not mean, sometimes this question arises that what happens like in our life if somebody is behaving in an obnoxious way or has some hinsa or some kind of violence towards us, etc. We go to the office, we are going out on the streets and things like that. Or if a thief comes, or if somebody who is out of order character who maligns your family, your daughter or wife, or there is some kind of abuse, then should we become Trinadapi Sunichena? So then, of course, depending on our status and our realization, we should not imitate. Then we should take the proper action. That is, the Paramatma within our heart will dictate that. And at that time, if we say, oh yeah, you can go ahead and touch my wife, or you can take my money, or you can ransack my house, I will just be Trinadapi Sunichana Taro Eva Seshnama. Then that would be incorrect. Then basically we are becoming participants in in encouraging crime. So like this, we have to be very careful. And even in spiritual life, the one is in the role of a mentor or a guru, then that authority is granted by the Guru Parampara. If somebody is speaking incorrect philosophy like the Mayavadis, etc., they are killers of Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Mayavadi Krishna Aparadhi. A Mayavadi Bhashya Shunila Hoy Sarvadash. Mahaprabhu's words. So, our Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's Gurudev, was known as Singha Gurudev. Simha, lion. Srila Prabhupada himself was very soft from inside, but like a thunderbolt. Rupanuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harine. Any principles of bhakti in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the line of Rupa Goswami, they would cut. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and the acharyas in the line would cut into pieces. Dvanta Harine. So cut into pieces by speaking boldly, by telling them, no, wrong is wrong. Prabhupada sometimes, or many a time, would say, you rascal. He would use those words. Try to understand why you are behaving in such a way. So it is out of pure compassion. Just like a father sometimes chastises or even slaps his child. Why? Because it is out of love. It is not out of some kind of hatred, for the correction, so that that person, that child will grow up with the proper sanskars. So there is danda, sama, bheda, etc. can be used, but not for personal sense gratification. If we have to defend the philosophy, if we have to defend the parampara, then we can become bold like a thunderbolt, like a lion, and we can be very much like a thunderbolt. But if it is for the personal, the devotee should be humble and try to, but not like what I mentioned in such dire circumstances. Then it would be inappropriate. Even the Supreme Lord seated in our heart will be disappointed. If we become instrument and if we have the capacity to stop a crime, then we should do that. So we have to, but those who are situated on a very high platform, for them it does not matter. Even when, so we have to not try to imitate. I'll give you another nice example. In one, there was a very pure sadhu, a devotee, traveling by foot in the olden days. They used to travel to go to different tirthas, and sometimes they had to go through a deep forest. So at that time, many dacoits used to come and loot the pilgrims, the jewelry and so many things they would take away. So that happened in that group. That pure devotee was present, and along with that, many other yatris, tirtha yatris were present. And suddenly dacoits came out from the dark jungle, and they not only looted them, but they also beat them up. And a lot of them, they fainted, and even they beat up the sadhu. So the sadhu had fainted and he was bleeding from the head. So then after a couple hours or so, another group of pilgrims was passing by, and they saw these pilgrims were on the ground. Some were crying, some had fainted, and they saw one sadhu. He had also fainted right there, and he was bleeding. So one of the yatris from the other group took some water and sprinkled it on the sadhu, and the other yatris also did the same thing. They sprinkled water on and tried to revive, and the sadhu revived eventually. And then the Yatri started asking from the second group, Baba, what happened? So he simply smiled and replied, the one uh, who who gave me water, meaning you fed me water uh, and revived me, is the same one who punished me. So basically, the dacoits were instruments, and you are also instruments. The dacoits were instruments in punishing me based on my past karma. And that is the demeanor, the humility of that sadhu. And it is Krishna only who again, revived me, meaning you are the instrument to do that. So unless and until we don't have that high realization, then we have to act according to our ashram, and we have to act according to our realization. But we have to try our best to be humble, no doubt about that. So that's the example, that's the lesson that I find here, that Ramananda Rai uses the word Bhritya. I am a servant of Sarva Bhattacharya. Further, we go into Tandra Kripaya Painu Tomara Darshana Aji Shafala Hoila Mora Manusya Janama. Tandra Kripaya Painu Tomara Darshana Aji Shafala Hoilo Mora Manusya Janama. So now he's saying, he's addressing Mahaprabhu as he had started addressing in the last verse itself. Tandra Kripa, by your mercy, Painu, I have obtained Tomar Darshan, your audience or your darshan. It is by your mercy we can get darshan. I got darshan of you. Aji, meaning today. Safala hoila mora manushya janama. And my life as a human being has become successful. So again here, this is something that we should also, humility after humility. Rayaramananda is simply acknowledging the fact that, that the dear Lord, it is by your mercy that we can get your darshan. How many of us think like that? We think that, oh, we drove down to the temple and now we are standing in front of Lord Jagannath or Radha Krishna, and we are getting, we got darshan due to our own endeavor. Or sometimes we just don't even think like that. But when we are standing in front of the Lord, this is the good prayer that my dear Lord Jagannath or my dear Radha Shyam Sundar or my Gaur Nitai, it is by your mercy today I got your darshan. Because if it is not your will, then it is not possible to get darshan. Many a times it happens. Sometimes we are running very late, or in spite of many efforts, bad traffic, bad weather, and then we reach there. Sometimes it happens that the doors are supposed to close at 8 p.m. exactly. Darshan is supposed to close, but sometimes we find that the darshan is open 8:01 p.m. still, and we get a little jhanki. We get a little bit, and then the pujari closes. Something in the pujari's heart makes him delay. These are some practical experiences that we find in the lives of devotees. Of course, that doesn't mean that we should do it deliberately, but if one that has that sincere desire for darshan, it happens. So that is because it is because the Lord wanted to give us darshan. That is the reason why we could make it to the temple. That is the reason why we are standing in front of the Lord. So by your mercy. Similarly, there's a parallel, analogous point that I can think of. After Krishna, Vasudeva Krishna completed almost all the 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, speaking them on the battlefield and explaining Arjuna about the different processes, including the highest process of Bhakti Yoga, and playing the role of a guru. Vasudeva Krishna is teaching so many things in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. And finally, what does Arjuna say? Nashtamo smriti labda tvat prasadat. Tvat prasadat. Same words here. Tandra krupaya. Tandra krupaya is Bangla, and tvat prasadat is Sanskrit. So tvat prasadat maya achyuta. Oh, my infallible Lord. Oh, Krishna. Achyuta. Krishna is also known as Achyuta. Chut means one who falls down. Chut means one who gets captivated by Maya, one who gets influenced. But Krishna is Achutta. Krishna and Krishna's avatars, Krishna's pure devotees, the Maya cannot touch them. They cannot fall in Maya. Chutta means falling down. And Achutta means they cannot, there is no fall down, there is no question. They are always on a transcendental platform. Always, eternally speaking. So Maya Achyuta, oh my dear Krishna, by your mercy, Nashtamo, my illusion has been eradicated, Smriti Labda, and I have been situated in the proper intelligence. Tvat Prasadat, by your mercy, Maya Achyuta, Gata Sandeha, all my doubts have vanished. Sthito Asmi, and now I'm situated in the proper consciousness. Karishya Vachanam Tavaha, I will do exactly as you say. So, Tandra Kripai, this is some of the simple things that we can do, even if we don't know many wonderful prayers from the Vedas or from the Shastras. At least we can say a few words. Krishna, you're so kind. Today I got your darshan by your mercy. So, Tandra Kripai Painu Tomar Darshan Aj Safala Hoilo Moro Manushya Janma. My human form of life has become successful. Rayaramananda, who is none other than the Pran Sakhi of Radharani, as Vishakha Sakhi is saying, my life has become successful. A personality who is so close to Sri Radha, where Krishna himself also sometimes enters into amorous pastimes with Lalita Sakhi, with Vishakha Sakhi. Those who are actually controlling Krishna fully in Vraj, they even make Krishna cry. They even beat up Krishna with a stick. They have so much authority. Look at the humility. Here it is showing the sadhaks like us, the persons who are practicing Krishna consciousness in the mode of rules and regulations. We must be humble. And that is why they are so priya to Sri Krishna and Radharani, that they have been given the status of their own most intimate associates. My life has become successful. Sarvabhome Tomar Kripa Tara Ei Chinha Asprashya Sparshi Lehana Tandra Premadhina. Sarvabhome Tomar Kripa Tar Ei Chinha Asprashya Sparshi Lehana Tandra Prema Adhina. So, Sarva Tomar Kripa, by the mercy, by your mercy, Sarva Tomar Kripa Tar, by your mercy, and Sarva Bhattacharya's mercy, Chinha, the symptoms, Asprashya. I am a Shudra. So asparsha, sparsha means to touch, and asparsha means one cannot touch a Shudra. That is the system developed by the Brahmanas, because if you touch a Shudra, or even if you see a Shudra, or even if the shadow, they walk across their shadow, then they have to take a bath and again chant the mantras, etc. So he's taking again a very humble position, that based in the society, where he's saying that I am asparsha, but sparshila, you touched me. Hana Tandra Prema Adhina, influenced by love. So here again, the humility of Ramananda Rai is saying that you have bestowed so much special mercy upon Sarva Bhattacharya also, and upon me also. Therefore, you have touched me. Because you listened to Sarva Bhattacharya, and you came specially to meet me. And not only that, you touched an untouchable person. This is only due to his love for you. So here he is also eulogizing Sarva Bhattacharya, that the love for Sarva Bhattacharya that you both have, you have gone so far as even hugging me and touching me, because it is the love that the Sarva Bhattacharya has for you. You are reciprocating by touching a Shudra like myself. So much beauty, and so much humility. Wish one day all these things I can personally live in my life, or imbibe them, if not in this life, in the next life, or many, many lives to come. Hopefully, these are the things that we need to take home really. And we have not even entered into the rus yet. This is just the tattva that we are speaking about the humility that Ramananda Rai is expressing. Then he says further in humility, Kaha tumi shakshat Ishvara Narayana, Kaha muni raja shevi Vishayi Sudra Dhama. Kaha tumi shakshat Ishwar Narayana, Kaha muni raja shevi Vishayi Sudra Adhama. He says that Kaha tumi sakshat Ishwar Narayan. I know who you are. You are the Sakshat Lord Narayan. So here he is expressing, of course, he knows that he is the source of Narayan. But generally speaking, in people in a Bharatvarsha, generally, they prefer to even call the Supreme Lord Narayan and Vishnu rather than calling Krishna as the Supreme Lord. That has become the trend these days. Even that's what we learn in schools, that Krishna is the avatar of Vishnu. These are the wrong things that are being taught by the local people, or by the system that we have learned from our parents, grandparents, etc. Even they go as far as in Bengal, some of these people, when they see a very poor person or a Daridra person, they call them Daridra Narayan. So Prabhupada was opposing very, very vehemently, very strongly. How can Narayan be Daridra? Their concept that the society made is that he has come to the door, so Narayan has come in the form of a very as a beggar, as a very destitute person. Narayan has taken that form. And actually the thing is that we offer our obeisances of pranams to all, because Narayan is present in everybody's heart. That is the proper understanding. That is why our culture says namaste, nama astu iti namaste. So when we are folding our palms and offering our obeisances or pranams to somebody, it is basically we are offering it to the Paramatma, who is an expansion of Shirodaksai Vishnu, or Lord Narayana, the source that are all the sources of Lord Balram. They are the Mul Sankarshan is the source of all these Vishnus and Narayan. So, like this, Chaitanaya Charitamrita was composed for the general public as such, those who are the common people, and like that, so that they could understand the word Narayan. That is why, because otherwise, why would Rai Ramanand use these words? That the Kaha tumi, where are you? Where are you? You are Ishwara Narayan. You are the Supreme Lord Narayan. Kaha Muni, and where am I? There is no comparison. I am just a Raja Sevi Vishayi. I am simply serving the king as a servant, and I am a Vishayi. I am inflicted by material attraction. Vishaya means I am a gross materialist. And Shudra Adhama. I am a Shudra because I am ignorant. I have no bhakti. Actually, the word Shudra means ignorant. It is not a jati. It became a jati because of the orthodox Brahmins or the jati Brahmins. Krishna says clearly in the Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnyam Maya system Guna Karma Vibhagasa. It's by Guna and Karma. These 4 varnas and 4 ashrams. The 4 varnas are the Shudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya and Brahman. So the Shudra Varna is because of the qualities that they have. Even if somebody born in a Brahman family, but he is going to drink and chew pan and eat tobacco, then he is Shudra. Because he may be born of a Brahman family. There's an example in the Mahabharata, and it is mentioned there that Ashwatthama was known as Brahma Bandhu, and Dronacharya was known as Shrestha Brahman. Brahman means the Shrestha, a great Brahmin, but he was known as Brahma Bandhu because Ashwatthama did not have the qualities of Drona of a Brahman. He was purely Kshatriya in nature. So he was known as Brahma Bandhu. Bandhu means a relative. So a relative of the Brahman. He was not addressed as a Brahmin. So Shudra basically means one who is ignorant. So here he is taking a very humble stance, not only from the point of the society, but also from the point that he is Adham. He is a fourth class man, a Shudra, ignorant person, and worse than a fourth class man. Sri Prabhupada has translated the word Shudra Adham as worse than a Shudra or a fourth class man. Further, he says, Mora sparsha na karile gruhana veda bhaya mora darshan toma vede nishedhaya. Mora sparsha na karile gruna veda bhaya mora darshan toma vede nishedhaya. Mora sparsha na karile, please, do not touch me, because the Vedic injunctions are stating that you should not touch an associate or a Shudra. So there are Karma Kand Vedas, there is injunctions. So the examples that I gave, that a Brahmin, if he crosses a Shudra or sees a Shudra, then a very orthodox Brahmin, according to the Karma Kand Veda, you have to take a bath again, chant the mantras again. Or even if it is a shadow of a Veda, of a Shudra, that touches the Brahmin. So here again, Rayaramananda is saying that the Vedic injunctions are stating that you should not associate with a Shudra. You are a very high class sannyasi, Dvijavaro. You are actually the lord and master of even all the Brahmins. So you are not contemptuous of my touch, aren't you so? Just by touching me, aren't you contemptuous of the Vedas? Are you not in contempt of the Vedas? Although in the Vedas you are forbidden to associate with the Shudras. So Sri Prabhupada has a nice purport here, where he's saying that in Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 932, Sri Prabhupada quotes this verse, Mamahi Partha Vipa Ashrita Ye api Shu Papa Yonyaha Striya Vaishyas Tatha Shudras Tei api Yanti Param Gatim. O son of Pritha, O Arjun, those who take shelter in me, although they may be of lower birth, like women, Vaishyas, or merchants. So merchants are also of lower birth, because Vaishyas are generally only interested in making money. That is a materialistic attitude or consciousness. And as well as Shudras, those who are labor class, because labor class is mostly ignorant. They are not only ignorant, materially speaking, most of them are Anguta Chap. They don't even have to know how to sign their names, a lot of them, or they have hardly gone to school. So there is no question of them, some of them, unless there are very few exceptions, which here Prabhupada is quoting the slok about those exceptions. What are those exceptions? That women, Vaishyas and Shudras, they can attain my supreme destination. Te api yanti param gatim, if they surrender unto me. Although ye api syu papa yonaya. Papa yoni means those who are born because of the bad karma, because of their papa sinful activities, they are born as lower than Brahmanas, such as Vaishyas and Shudras, etc. So the word papyona is a lower class in one sense. Lower class because they don't have any spiritual qualification. And according to the Vedic system of classification, the women, Vaishyas and Shudras belong to a lower social order. So this is something which a lot of women may not agree in the modern day. But we have to look at what the Guru, Sadhu and Shastras say. We find that even Mother Kunti in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is saying almost the same things. That I do not have that intelligence, being a woman, that much to understand your greatness, O Krishna. I cannot recollect that exact verse, but Mother Kunti herself has expressed that. And generally speaking, women don't get much time to develop a lot of spirituality because their life is due to their taking care of the family. Generally speaking, They are so engrossed in that once they are married, taking care of the husband, and then taking care of the kids, and then if there's an extended family or a joint family, there is the in-laws and etc. So their whole life is dedicated, and that dedication is not a disqualification, because that dedication is, if they have a good husband who is a Vaishnava or who has got good Krishna consciousness, automatically they will be promoted to the spiritual world, because they have performed their duty perfectly. And they have performed their duty. We hardly find that there are any women gurus. Why is that? Because Prabhupada and the Shastras, they say that women are always to be protected. First, when they are little, then they are protected by the father. Then when they get married, protected by the husband. And then the husband has to go into the third and fourth ashram, which is the when time comes, according to the Vedic culture, they must, from the brahmacharya to grihastha, after grihastha ashram, after, generally speaking, after the age of 50, 55, they must enter into the vanaprastha. Vana means going into the forest and preparing for sannyas, detaching them from the family, from the relatives. And in vanaprastha order, uh, the family members, one of them, they are allowed to send some food prepared at home for them, but the detachment. In vanaprastha also, one should not consider sleeping with their own wife in the same bed. So those who follow all these things, then that is vanaprastha. Vanaprastha can be even happen while staying at home. And then the next stage comes is sannyas. And sannyas can physically be taken by the proper rites and rituals under the bona fide guru in the parampara, by taking the three dandi sannyas in our in our Gaudiya Sampradaya, and taking the bhagwa or the saffron dress, and serving the cause with mana vacha kaya. That is what the three danda stands for. Mana means uh, the mind, in the heart, mana, vacha with speech, and kaya means the body. Fully serving the Supreme Lord. That is the reason why we have three dandi, and the Mayavadis and the Brahmavadis have ek dandi, the ek dandi sannyas. So the three dandi sannyas is, of course, is pure bhakti representation, because it has a complete surrender and complete use of all the senses in the service of Krishna. What is that nice verse? Risikena risikesha sevanam tad bhakti ruchyate. One should serve the master of the senses, Rishik. Rishik means senses, and Rishikena means with the senses. Rishikesh, serve the master of the senses. One of the names of Krishna, or Krishna's expansions, is Rishikesh. So Rishikena Rishikesh Sevanam. This is Naradji is explaining in the Narad sutras, that one should serve Krishna fully with the senses. So that Tridandi is a significant. It's the last ashram in the varnashram, and that means completely giving up everything. One should. Otherwise, if you are still attached to the family, you will still be serving families, still be serving kids, still be serving grandkids, etc. So these are some of the. This is for spiritual progress. That is why Krishna says, Chaturvanya Maya system. It is mine. I have actually made this system for the upliftment of mankind, gradual. And the sannyas ashram is not only upliftment for the self, but the sannyas ashram is meant for preaching. And preaching means it is for the benefit of all. So, so women, generally, there was a big controversy recently, and as a matter of fact, I was thinking about which particular purports or verse Prabhupada is mentioning about women having a lower intelligence or lower class of intelligence this morning itself, because there was this so-called big speaker of Radhana Swami, Chaitanya Charitamrita Prabhu, and he has written some books and all these things, but he has actually blatantly and shamelessly, he has actually made statements that have that actually while the purity of Srila Prabhupada. Of course, nobody can while the purity of Srila Prabhupada, but when somebody makes an attempt, they are actually committing themselves to great blasphemy. And just to bring that point into perspective, I just want to, because I had sent this out to a few devotees, and they consider such pseudo persons who just have knowledge of the Shastra, and so much ahankar comes into them that they even think that they are better than His divine grace. So here's a statement, and this is basically based on the same point that we are bringing home here. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu was exposed. He was actually a spiritual advisor to the GBC, and he spoke about Srila Prabhupada's teachings. Now he was exposed for speaking nonsense about Srila Prabhupada himself. The attack on Srila Prabhupada was as follows, and he was found guilty by the ISKCON advisory committee of making statements that reflect doubt or misunderstanding concerning His divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada's absolute position. One of his teachings, so in his lecture, Chaitanya Charan Das, he criticized Srila Prabhupada, and in the claim he makes that Srila Prabhupada's statements are not in line. Srila Prabhupada's statements are not in line with Sadhu and Shastras. Now, Prabhupada has said a particular statement about the intelligence of women. Where is it? So this is quoting Chaitanya Charan Das. Srila Prabhupada has said a particular statement about the intelligence of women. Where is it in the Shastras? Where is it said? I have not found any statement in Shastra talking directly about the intelligence level of women. Our tradition means to teach the message of Guru Sadhu Shastra, not just like that we take the message of Guru and neglect Sadhu and Shastra. So he has also justified his criticism about Srila Prabhupada by saying that it is the same as when I was a child and when I grew up and realized that his parents had many faults. So in childhood, we don't see the faults of the parents, but now because I have grown up, I can see the faults of my parents because I've become so learned. Now I have the wisdom of the world, etc. So as we go through spiritual life, again quoting Chaitanya Charan Das, as we go through spiritual life, we all evolve in our understanding of things. Just like when a person is a small child, the parents are everything for the child, but that conception cannot be maintained throughout the life. As the children grow, they see, yes, my parents have fault. Yes, my parents have some limitations. So this shows that no matter, he's got a huge following, and he's been invited to speak all over the world, and he's the famous disciple of Radhanath Swami, and he's cashing in on that. So and shamelessly going, even trying to, and not trying, he has criticized Srila Prabhupada, and not only that, he has actually made a wrong statement with an analogy. Of course, in our Vedic culture, we don't generally see the faults of the parents, but the parents are material, generally speaking. So that example is not good. But for a spiritual master, a pure devotee, they are faultless. Somebody had asked this question to him that about the same thing, that you have criticized Srila Prabhupada and you have done that. So what is your stance on that? So he says, yes, Prabhupada got the education under the Scottish Churches College in Kolkata under the British. This was in the 1920s. And he had learned from his professors that women have a smaller brain than males. So Prabhupada is trying to, use that in his purports, or that kind of consciousness. And obviously, that is not right. So he has actually said that in a live lecture also. Not only what I just read, which is condemned. So then the point is that, again, a philosophical point, very important point, not that women should feel bad about this, It is just because that is the nature of the soul has been embedded in a certain body. For example, if a soul due to karma has taken birth in a body of an animal or in a lower species of life, does that mean that the soul is bad? No. It is the consciousness that has been obtained in that particular body is of a lower level. So certainly we find history speaks for itself. And now I'm speaking about spiritual history, that no such thing as gurus that were there, ladies. There was only one exception, that is Lord Nityananda's Bharya, or Lord Nityananda's consort, Janma Mata. She was the only one, and there is one more, Ganga Mata Goswami, in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Other than that, we don't find. And now we find that again they are deviating in Srila Prabhupada's teachings. Now they have, the GBC in ISKCON has passed a law that now even women can become Diksha Gurus. So this is not something that Prabhupada approved. This is not something that the Shastras approve. Of course, there are very, 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 very exceptional cases. So I don't see any exceptional cases in our ISKCON movement where they are all, on the level of Srila Prabhupada or on the level of the Acharyas, that they should be given the authority to give Diksha. So coming back to this point, the example of the parents is not most perfect that Chaitanya Charitamrita has given. The perfect example is that when there is a pure devotee, when he makes a statement, it is what Narottam Das Thakur says, it is the standard. Not this stupid Chaitanya Charitamrita. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chittete Koriya Aikya or na mane kori ho asha. Every day in ISKCON we sing this Guru Puja right on the dot of 7 a.m. in most temples, or 7:15, just before the Sringar Darshan. Right in that, every day, in the thousands and thousands of homes, also Guru Puja, many devotees perform. And in that, the very first sentence or the first 2 lines of Narottam Das Thakur says, Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma Bando Mui Saudhan Mate. Narottam Das Thakur says, Saudhan. Please don't think the Guru or the Acharya to be an ordinary person. Bando Mui Saudhan Mate. Because they are the ones who are giving Keval Bhakti. Keval Bhakti means pure Bhakti, not mixed Bhakti. Keval Bhakti. Not the Kaivalya Bhakti of the Mayavadis. Keval Bhakti means 100% pure devotion. So, Sri Guru Charana Padma, Kevala Bhakti Sadma, Bando Mui Saudhan Mate, Jahara Prasade Bhai, E Bhavatori Ajay, Krishna Prapti Hoite Jaha Hoite. It is by his mercy that one can cross over this material world and one can obtain Sri Krishna. Krishna Prapti Hoite Jaha Hoite. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chittete Koriya Aikya or na Kori Om Mane Asha. Narottam Das Thakur, who himself is a very, very intimate associate of Radharani in Golok Vrindavan, he himself is saying, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya. Whatever my Guru says. Loknath Goswami, he has actually addressed this Guru Puja to his Guru, Loknath Goswami, which we have adopted in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, in the Gaudiya Math and in ISKCON, this perfect prayer. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya. If the lotus lips, everything that emanates from the lotus lips of my Guru Maharaj, Padma Vakya, Chittete Koriya Aikya. And I will follow that to the T and the dot with my full consciousness. Or na kori ho mone asha. I do not have any other desire. One time Srila Prabhupada mentioned, perhaps more than once, that when Prabhupada was applying tilak, and his tilak was so nice and perfect, so some of his disciples says, Prabhupada, your tilak is amazing. It's very perfect. So Srila Prabhupada said, immediately, just like the same mood that Rayaramananda, he immediately gives credit to his Guru. He immediately turns that conversation about tilak and he says, yes, my Guru Maharaj's tilak was most perfect. And he never even used the mirror. He never even used the mirror. So Prabhupada laughed and said, I am using mirror. But he never even used the mirror. So one disciple stated, when Srila Prabhupada made that statement, that my Guru Maharaj's tilak was most perfect and he never used the mirror. So then one disciple said that, Prabhupada, was it perfect? How did it come out? So when Prabhupada kind of in a chastising way, perfect or no perfect, my Guru Maharaj is always perfect. So unless and until we have that implicit faith in our acharyas, we will never get that pure. The bhakti will not sphurate. There's a nice verse. I'm trying to think. Maybe Nandpran Prabhu, if you know that verse, you can help me out. Yasya deve parabhakti. That's how it starts. Yasya deve parabhakti. And the essence of this verse is that one who has full implicit faith in Guru. And Guru again, I mean, means pure acharya. Not some chalti falti Guru who is appointed through voting system. That okay, now we find you that you are in good character, and although you may not be so pure, but we appoint you as Guru because you are our chamcha. So these things are happening. But to compare a Guru, Jai Krishna Tattvaveti Shai Guru Hoya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had said that one who knows the Krishna Tattva, the philosophy, they all can become Guru. But Rup Goswami said that a pure Guru is one who can completely Vacho Vegam, Manasa Vegam, etc. There are 6 different urges. The very first verse in the Nectar of Instruction, he is saying that anybody who has full control of the senses, the speech, the mind, the genitals, the belly, the senses that are fully controlled, then they can become Jagat Guru. They are able to become, and they can initiate disciples. But we find in today's world, those people that we see on Asta channel and so many places, they love sumptuous food, even they are wearing, when they are in the garb of a sannyasi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Bhalona peribe, Bhalona khaibe. In Chaitanaya Charitamrita, for a sannyasi, one should not eat sumptuous foods, Bhalona peribe, and one should not wear very, very good clothing. So these are the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Who are we to transgress that? But the sense gratification is much, because there is no Trinadapi Sunichana Taro Ivasashana or Manena Manadena. Then where they can have pure bhajan? So the so-called gurus we find dozen by the dime in today's world, the cheaters and the cheated. And then we find such persons, although it's with great shame that I criticize this Chaitanya Charan Das, that he has the audacity to say that whatever Srila Prabhupada said, is not in line with Guru Sadhu Shastra. So this is something, a lesson for all of us. We may become the topmost scholars, we may have studied everything, but whatever Srila Prabhupada says is Guru Mukha Padma Vakya, it is Brahma Vakya. And unless and until we have that implicit faith, we will never get the true darshan of Krishna. We will never get the true bhakti, the pure bhakti. That is why Narottam Das Thakur, in the same prayer, he is saying that in the end, Haha Prabhu Korodaya Deho More Padachaya Eve Jasha Gushuk Tribhuvana. He's telling Loknath Goswami, his Gurudev, that Lokanath Lokera Jivana, you are the life and soul of the public, because the public generally, they need guidance. Haha Prabhu Korodaya, please have mercy on me, oh my master, Prabhu Korodaya, Deho More Padachaya. Please give me shelter at your lotus feet. Eve Yash Gushuk Tribhuvana. Your glories are spread all over the 3 worlds. So Srila Prabhupada's glories are spread all over not only the 3 worlds, but in many, many places, because Prithvicha Adi Nagar Adi Gram Sarvatra Hoibe More Naam Prachar. This is the Vani of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 535 years ago, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that in every town and village, my name will be spread. And the commander-in-chief of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan band was none other than A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. If Rup Goswami was appointed, he would have done that. Sanatan Goswami could have done. They are all very capable personalities. Even Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur could have spread the Sankirtan movement all, because they are all intimate associates of Srimati Radharani. But Mahaprabhu chose Abhay Charana Das, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And he did that. He satisfied Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire of spreading the holy names of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare in every town and village. So lest we forget where we come from. It is so horrible. So anyways, coming back to Prabhupada's purport here, and this is amazing that I was thinking where I can find these words of Srila Prabhupada, and right, lo and behold, it is there in today's Katha, it is there in this particular Chaitanya Charitamrita purport, that the word Papa Yona means born in a lower class. According to the Vedic system of classification, women, Vaishyas and Sudras belong to a lower social order. A low life means a life without Krishna consciousness. High and low positions in society are calculated by considering a person's Krishna conscious. A Brahmana is considered to be on the highest platform because he knows Brahman, the absolute truth. The second caste, the Kshatriya caste, also known as Brahman, but not as well as the Brahmanas. The Vaishyas and Shudras do not clearly understand God consciousness, but if they take to Krishna consciousness by the mercy of Krishna and the spiritual master, they do not remain in the lower caste, Papa Yoneha. It is clearly stated, Te api yanti param gatim. Prabhupada has quoted this verse from the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Te api yanti param gatim. So, Srila Prabhupada was not only, this is a shame that a person in the grandchild position, is criticizing his divine Krishna Prabhupada. But Prabhupada has been criticized by his own disciples. Prabhupada has been criticized by people of a very low-class mentality by stating that, he has given Diksha to these Malechas, to these meat-eaters. This is a very important point. That is why I'm bringing this home. And he has given this initiation and Diksha to all these Westerners who are at one time meat eaters, and they lived a very bad, socially speaking, life. Meat eaters, gamblers, womanizers, and intoxicators. How Prabhupada can give them the Brahma Gayatri and the Janoi or the Brahminical thread? They are Papa Yoneha. But no, the Shastra clearly, we believe Sri Krishna, we believe Mahaprabhu. Te api yanti param gati. Those who have taken by implicit faith in Prabhupada, they give up meat eating, gambling, intoxication to the extent that they don't even drink tea or coffee, and illicit association with women, and they have chanted Hare Krishna Mahamantra for many years. Then they are entitled to param gati. Then they do not remain Shudras. They do not remain Malechas. It is not by Janma, but it is by Karma. And Bhakti is even beyond Karma. So all activities in Bhakti will lead to a Yanti Param Gati. Very important. So socially speaking, yes, one is a Shudra, ignorant of Krishna consciousness, or a Vaishya, always materially attached to business and money making. But if that same person takes to Krishna consciousness, then one cannot say that only sannyasis are going back home, back to Godhead, or only they will also indeed get the mercy of Krishna. Tatya anuvamkam susikshamana bhunjana eva atma krita vipakam. Those who actually offer obeisances to Krishna with their mind, body, and soul, and although they are suffering their reactions of their karma, then they are getting Sadaya Bhag. They will indeed get the mercy of Sri Krishna, which is the same thing as what Prabhupada is quoting, Yanti Param Gati. They just like the right of the children. They have the right over their father's property. Similarly, the mercy of Krishna, those devotees who have, with their mind, body, and soul, have always remembered Krishna, although they are suffering their karmic reaction, and they still continuously remain Krishna conscious, then it is their rightful claim. I remember in this purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions these words. It is the rightful claim, just like the rightful claim of the children is on the property of the father. So the property of Krishna is, here in this case, is mercy. So then those devotees who are, so unless one has attained the highest standard of life, one cannot return home back to Godhead. So I'm reading Srila Prabhupada's purport as it is. One may be a Shudra, Vaishya, or a woman, But if one is situated in the service of the Lord in Krishna consciousness, one should not be considered Stri, Shudra, Vaishya, or lower than a Shudra. Should not be considered. So here Prabhupada clearly, Chaitanya Charan Das, have you not read this? That you are criticizing his divine grace? Though a person may be from a low-born family, if he is engaged in the Lord's service, he should never be considered to belong to a lower-born family. The Padma Puran forbids, and Srila Prabhupada quotes a verse from the Padma Puran. He says that Vikshate Jati Samanyat Sa Yati Narkam Dhruvam. A person goes to hell quickly when he considers the devotee of the Lord in terms of birth. Although Sri Ramananda Rai supposedly took birth in a Shudra family, indeed, he was on the transcendental platform. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore embraced him. Out of spiritual humility, Sri Ramananda Rai presented himself as Shudra, as Raja, Sevi, Vishayi, Sudhrida, Adhama. Even though one may engage in government service or in any other pounds, shillings, pence business. Very nice. Prabhupada's original English. Pound, shillings, pence business. In short, in materialistic life, he needs only take to Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is a very simple process. One need only chant the holy names of the Lord and strictly follow the principles forbidding sinful activity. In this way, one can no longer be considered an untouchable, a Vishayi, or a Shudra. One who is advanced in spiritual life should not associate with non-devotees, namely men in government service and men engaged in materialistic activity for sense gratification or in the service of others. So just the point here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, actually what Prabhupada is mentioning is actually one of the incidences of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's own personal life, where when he was in Jagannath Puri and King Prataprudra wanted to have darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he was in the sannyas order, as an external example to the society, he said, I cannot meet Vishayi persons like a king. King is considered Vishayi. Vishayi means always materialistic, lot of luxury in their life, etc. But of course, Mahaprabhu knew that King Prataprudra is a great devotee. But if he were to meet, excuse me, Hare Krishna, he were to meet in public King Prataprudra, then it would give a bad name to the order of sannyas ashram. Sannyasis should not be mixing with materialistic persons, very clear. But nowadays we find the so-called big sannyasis and the so-called big gurus, they're always looking for big homes, those persons driving Mercedes and BMWs and Lexuses and the latest version of Tesla models. And how many, believe it or not, one person, when he was visiting Toronto a few years ago, so-called big Bhagavad Kathakar, not a sannyasi, but he has got a big name, etc. And and his only purpose is to speak Bhagavad just to gather money. He somehow or the other he convinced some ISKCON temple in New Jersey to get him a visa, and in India he was speaking Bhagavad Katha, etc. But then once he came here, he kind of swindled ISKCON temple and he got the green card, and then he left everything, and then he started getting sponsors and big kathas in hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars he gathered. So some weak person or some innocent person called him to Toronto, and that person, before he already asked, because the first program was done at a particular place, and that was my last program that I attended after I saw his Nautanki, after I saw his drama baji. So he casually asked me that, next week, Prabhuji, we have a program at this person's house. So can you tell me a little bit about them? And what is that little bit? So I said, what would you like to know? So then he came to the point that blatantly, this is after the program was finished. I was sitting in the basement. People had taken the prasadam. And then he says that, what kind of a car does he drive? Can he pick me up? And what kind of a home does he have? So this is Bhagavad Kathakar. Shame on them. And I'm very, very outspoken when it comes to these things. I'm not afraid, whether it is ISKCON or outside of ISKCON. This is not done. So Mahaprabhu rejected meeting that proposal of King Raja Prataprudra. And when Nityananda Prabhu pleaded, when Advaita Acharya pleaded, when the Sarvabhauma Acharya pleaded, when Gopinath Acharya pleaded to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then Mahaprabhu reluctantly, then he got upset. He said, if you keep on coming to me and if you want me to meet Raja Prataprudra, I will leave Puri. So if you bother me again. So then they had to take a step back, and then again after a few days they tried to convince him. Then Mahaprabhu said, okay, fine, I will see his son. So the son is the representation of the father, just to kind of keep the heart of the devotees. So because Prataprudra Raja had threatened to commit suicide, when the news went back to him that no matter what, we tried to convince Mahaprabhu to give you darshan, but he just says no, and he has threatened to leave Puri. So when King Prataprudra heard that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu threatened to leave Puri, that time he decided, I will commit suicide. I will give up my life. My life is useless because Mahaprabhu has rejected me. He doesn't want to see me. So then again they went back, and then the son was asked to see. So then at least then there was some satisfaction in the heart. At least their thoughts of suicide went away. And then Gopinath Acharya and Sarvabhauma Acharya and the associates of Mahaprabhu said, there is a way to meet him. When the Rath Yatra, when the Raths pull out on the Rath Yatra day, and then halfway when Lord Jagannath's Rath will stop, and then there will be close by the Narendra Sarovar, there is a garden, there is the Tota, and there Lord Jagannath will rest, right around there, and then Mahaprabhu will also rest. At that time, ask King Prataprudra to wear ordinary clothes like a peasant, and then come and do some charan seva when Mahaprabhu will be resting for about a few minutes. And at that time, Raja Prataprudra did that exactly as instructed by the associates of Mahaprabhu. Because the associates are, and of course it is inspired by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Otherwise, how will the associates do that? So this is to enhance the Leela, to make it even more sweeter, to even make it more utkantha. Utkantha means the longing to meet Mahaprabhu. That's why Krishna gives separation to the gopis in Vrindavan. This is a very important point. When Mahaprabhu rejected Prataprudra Raja, the reason is to even increase, the internal reason is to even increase his longing, to increase more and more the separation that he felt from Mahaprabhu, that eagerness. So that is what Mahaprabhu wanted. That is the internal reason. There is no question that Mahaprabhu would not meet King Prataprudra. So then Prataprudra Raja went, and as instructed, he saw Mahaprabhu lying down under a tree, and then he slowly massaged his feet and he started singing the Gopi Geet, especially that verse, Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavi Viriditam Kalmashapam Shravana Mangalam Srimadatam Bhuvi Grinanti Je Bhuridajana. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got up from his sleep and he hugged him, tears of ecstasy, something similar to what we see here between Rayaramananda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There was shivering and there is kampan and there was streams of tears and there was a lot of tight embrace. And Mahaprabhu kept repeating the last line of that 9th verse of the Gopi, Bhuvi Grinanti Je Bhuridajana, Bhuvi Grinanti Je Bhuridajana, Bhuvi Grinanti Je Bhuridajana. Indeed, that person or those personalities are the most magnanimous or the most munificent or the most charitable persons, those who go around the world and simply preach Krishna consciousness. Bhuvi Grinanti Je Bhuridajana. Bhurida means the most magnanimous. Da means dan. If you do Sandhi Viched in Sanskrit, Bhurida. So Bhuri means most extreme. Da means dan. So it is personalities like Srila Prabhupada and Acharyas of that caliber, they are Bhuridas. They go all over the world giving Krishna consciousness and eventually Krishna prem to the devotees. And continuing to Srila Prabhupada's purport on this particular wonderful point here, he says, even though one may engage in government service or any other pounds, shillings, pence business, in short, in materialistic life, he needs only to take to Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is a very simple process. One need only chant the holy names of the Lord and strictly follow the principles forbidding sinful activity. In this way, one can no longer be considered an untouchable, a Vishayi or a Shudra. One who is advanced in spiritual life should not associate with non-devotees, namely men in government service and men engaged in materialistic activities for sense gratification or in the service of others. Such men are considered Vishayi, materialistic. It is said, and Srila Prabhupada quotes from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says, Niskinchasya Bhagavata Bhajan Un Mukhasya Param Jigam Mishor Bhava Sangrasya Sandarshanam Vishayinam Atha Yoshitam Cha Ha Hanta Visha Bhakta Sanatano Api Asadhu. A person who is very seriously engaged in cultivating devotional service with a view to crossing the ocean of nescience, crossing this material world, and who has completely abandoned all material activities should never be seen as a Shudra or a Vaishya or a woman. Quoted from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 8, verse number 23. So, I actually would like to take the rest of the time, maybe about 10-15 minutes, in glorifying Lord Nityananda. Today, we have concluded verse number 36 from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, chapter 8, Ramanand Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Samvad. So, before we started, we sang a wonderful song, also glorifying Lord Nityananda. Tomorrow in Vrindavan Dham, it is already Nityanand Trayadashi. So, Nandpran Prabhuji, happy Nityanand Trayadashi to you. And of course, to all the devotees that are there, tomorrow is Nityanand Trayadashi. It is fasting till noon and Ekadashi Prasadam. Any Krishna Tattva, we must fast if we are serious about spiritual life. So please make note of that. So we sang this bhajan prior to the session of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu and Rayaramanada Samvad. Nitai pada kamala koti chandra shushitala je chaya jagata judai heno nitai bine bhai Radha Krishna paite nai dhruda kori dharo nitai pai. Narottam Das Thakur is saying that the lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu, Nitai pada kamala, are like koti chandra shushitala, the cooling effect of thousands and thousands, koti chandra, moons. They are like the moons, sushitala, giving the cooling effect. So, je chaya jagata jurai, and by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu's cooling effect, one gets relief in this material world, because this material world is like a samsara davanal. Davanal means a forest fire. So, when there is a forest fire, or when we are in a very in a situation where there is a lot of heat, like we find the summers in some of the places in the world, especially even in India, suddenly the heat wave will come in February or March, and the temperatures will rise to 40 degrees Celsius. Some places in Raj, like Govardhan, and the peak of summer is 55 degrees Celsius, 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So, and imagine one is there outside for some reason, has to go out, and suddenly comes into an air-conditioned room. How does that feel? So this is even more that we are already burning. We are suffering in this material world. Jai Chaya Jagata Judai. But by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu's lotus feet, that are giving us the cooling effect. And Nityananda Prabhu is the Adi Guru. When in Golok Vrindavan, Krishna expands himself as Lord Balram to his right, and simultaneously expand himself on the left as Radharani. So, Dakhine Nitai Chand, Bame Gadadhara. There is a nice Sandhya Arti where Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes the Lord. So it's the same thing. Dakhine, on Dakshin, on the right side, is Nitai Chand. Nitai Chand is Balram. And Bame Gadadhara, in Bamya, on the left side, is Gadadhar Pandit is Radharani. And so is the origin of the entire creation that happens is through the agency of Balram Prabhu. When Krishna expands himself on the right as Balram, and the left as Balram is the Sandhini Shakti, Krishna is the Sambit Shakti, and Radharani is the Haladini Shakti. So simultaneously from him, they both come out of his transcendental body. And Lord Balram is the one who creates all the spiritual worlds and the material worlds. I've mentioned that before. And he is also the one that becomes the Adi Guru, the primal Guru. Narottam Das Thakur in one bhajan, he says, Vrajendra Nandan Sachi Shuta Hoilo Shai, Balram Hoilo Nitai. So Vrajendra Nandan, the son of Nanda Maharaj, Krishna, has become Sachi Shuta, the son of Sachi Mata. Sachi Shuta Hoilo Shai, Balram Hoilo Nitai. And Lord Balram became Nityananda Prabhu. So Nitai Pada Kavala Koti Chandra Shushila Jay Chaya Jagat Jurai. Heno Nitai Bine Vai Radha Krishna Paitane. One more point before that, before I forget. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially mentioned in a very secret way in his Chaitanya Sishtastakam in the first verse, the glories of Nityananda Prabhu. Yes. So it is there in our 22 sessions. If one wants to revisit the first verse, I think it took 6 weeks. We took 6 sessions. But in that verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that Cheto Darpanam Arjanam Bhava Mahadava Agni Nirvapanam. So the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra or the holy names will cleanse our heart or the mirror of our minds. Cheto Darpanam Arjanam. Bhava, this material world, Mahadava Agni Nirvapanam. And the forest fire of our material existence will be extinguished. Bhava Mahadava Agni Nirvapanam. The great forest fire of our material existence is extinguished. Bhava Mahadava Agni Nirvapanam. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. Vidya Vadu Jivanam. This applies to Lord Nityananda. What is that? Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. That Chandrika means the moonlight of thousands of moon is spread by Lord Nityananda, the Adi Guru. And how is it spread? It is spread through all the acharyas because their hearts are so transparent that they can receive the moon-like rays of mercy of Lord Nityananda. Please try to understand this concept. This is a very, very deep internal rasic topic when we come explanation on how Lord Nityananda is being eulogized by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So here he doesn't say about himself, he says Shreya Kairava Chandrika. And when that moonlight passes through all those transparent via media acharyas, it reaches the heart of the devotee who is practicing Krishna consciousness. And their heart, when they receive those moon rays of Nityananda Prabhu through the Guru Parampara, their heart is just like a lily, a white lily, Shreya Kairava, the white lily that blossoms in the full moon night. There are certain lilies and lotuses that blossom when there is a full moon. So, like that, so wonderfully, Mahaprabhu himself has composed this. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. He has spread those moonlight rays, just like Narottam Das Thakur, Koti Chandra Sushila Jay Chaya Jagat Jurai. And then the devotee's heart becomes so pure, like that white lily. Shreya. Shreya means Kairava, white lily. But Shreya means very pure. And when that purity happens, Shreya Kairava Chandrika, what will happen? Vidya Vadu Jivanam. It is by the mercy of Lord Nityananda, the Adi Guru, we will get the transcendental knowledge of Krishna consciousness. That's one meaning. Vidya Vadu Jivanam, the Rasik meaning is the devotee, after being fully purified and situated in pure bhakti, he will at that time get that mood of the gopis. Vadu Jivanam, Vraj Vadus. Vadu means a married person. A married person in our Vedic languages that arise from Sanskrit, including Hindi and many other languages, the wife is known as Vadu or Bahu in Hindi. What does that mean? It means in Sanskrit the word Vadu means to increase. So only a woman can increase the family by giving birth to children. A man cannot do that. So all these Women in Vraj, the Vadhu, Jivanam, their life was that they were married to different husbands, but their life was completely surrendered to Sri Krishna, Vidya Vadhu Jivanam, which is the highest and the pinnacle of surrender. Vipinavahu Murali Hatha Saji, Navala Kishora, Navala Manamohana, Navala Swara Vamshi Vaji, Klim Shrim Prema, Bijako Vardaka, Sagara Chali, Gopi Bhaga Chali, Vipinavahu Murali Hatha Saji. When Krishna played the flute in the middle of the night in Vrindavan, in Vamshivat, Sriman Rasar Sarambi Vamshivatastita Karshane Swaner Venur Gopi, he attracted all the gopis who are married. They are Vadhus, Vrajavadhus. And he attracted them with his flute, called them in the middle of the night in the deepest forest in seclusion. And they gave up everything. Krishna says, aren't you worried? Go back. Even it is mentioned in the Gopi Geet, Pati Sutan Vaya, that particular verse. They've given up everything. Gopi said, now we have given up Pati, we have given up Suta, we have given up children, we have given up our family, and now we have come to, and you're telling us to go back? You know, that's not done. Oh, Krishna. Krishna was testing their waters. Because everybody, even in bhakti, those who are in Mishra Bhakti, especially people like us, we are attached to our family. We are not only attached to family, we are attached to money. We are attached to material things. So where is the question of giving up all those things? And then, worst situation, most people, even if they're Krishna conscious, they cannot give up their families. They cannot give, and even they are of an aged person, they cannot give up their grandsons, the grandchildren, the granddaughters. So here, it is by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu that highest surrender is conveyed through the Acharyas, Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. That transcendental knowledge of the gopis of Vrindavan is brought by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. And that full surrender of the highest Saranagati. We've done many sessions on Saranagati. We mentioned this particular point. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadhu Jivanam Ananda Ambudhi Vardhanam. And then the result is the ocean of bliss keeps on increasing. The ocean of bliss of the devotee and Ananda Ambudhi is Radha Krishna. When one surrenders in the bhav of the gopis of the Manjaris, Radha and Krishna are the most pleased. They themselves become subservient to such devotees. They become Bhakta Vashya. They increase the bliss of Radha Krishna, Ananda Ambudhi Vardhanam. Double meaning of that word. So, Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Susitala Jay Chaya Jagat Judai Heno Nitai Vine Vai Radha Krishna Paitena. Without the mercy of Lord Nityananda, we cannot get the association of Radha Krishna. And therefore, Narottam Das Thakur is praying, is suggesting, is pleading, Drida Kori Dharo Nitai Rupai. Be very steadfast, Drida Kori, and catch hold the lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu. Catching the whole lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu means catching the lotus feet of those Vaishnavas who have no malice in them, but they only mean your eternal well-being, our eternal well-being. That is Drida Kori Dharo Nitai Rupai. Nitai's pure instruments are the Acharyas, the Rupanugas. So that is, and Prabhupada mentions, I remember, very funny. Funny means, Prabhupada had a very good sense of humor. I remember many years ago, Prabhupada has actually sung this song very nicely in a different tune than what I sung. I think I sung it, if I'm not mistaken, I had heard this many years ago in the Bhatyal or the Maji tune. Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Shushi Tala Jechaya Jagata Jurai Heno Nitai Vine Bhai Radha Krishna Paite Na Drida Kori Dharo Nitai Paya Drida Kori Dharo Nitai Pai. So Prabhupada has sung this so wonderfully, and I remember that Prabhupada, maybe 20 or 25 years ago, he says, if you want to enter the dance party of Radha and Krishna, then you must behold the lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu. So obviously, this was in the older days when Prabhupada was here, probably in the 60s, mid 60s and 70s. So most of his disciples and the followers were the Westerners. So, here he is probably, because the hippies always like to do parties, dance in the clubs, in the pubs, in the gardens, wherever, their whole thing was dancing, the hippie, the free. So Prabhupada says that if you want to enter the dance party of Radha Krishna, dance party means the Ras Leela. So these are some of the nuances one has to be able to catch, that is divine grace was such an expert. Dhrida kori dharo nitar pai. So then he says in the second verse, say Shambandha nahi jar britha janma gelo tar sei pashu boro durachar. So if one doesn't establish a relationship with Guru, with Adi Guru, Nityananda Prabhu, britha janma gelo tar, our life has been wasted. Many people have that ahankar, which Narottam Das Thakur mentions. Say pashu bado durachar, very strong words he has used. He is a misbehaved animal. I still remember the words of Srila Prabhupada when he translated this bhajan. Say pashu bado durachar. This person is like a misbehaved, big, grossly misbehaved animal. Nitai na bolilo mukhe majilo samsara sukhe vidya kule ki kori betar. If you do not utter the name of Nityananda Prabhu, Jai Gaur Nitai, Jai Gaur Hari, Nityananda, Jai Nitai. If we do not say Nitai na bolilo mukhe, if we do not utter the name of Lord Nityananda from our mouth, and we simply majilo samsara sukhe, and we are simply drowning ourselves, immersing ourselves in materialistic activities in this world, then what is the use? Even if we have vidya kule ki kori bedar, even if one may have vidya, material knowledge, PhDs, doctorates, engineering degrees, vidya kule, some may be born in a very so-called high Brahmin family, so-called family. What is the use of that kul if you have not taken shelter of the lotus feet? What is the use of that vidya or that knowledge? Ki kori betar. What will you do with it? Because this knowledge and all these different bodily concepts will only again and again bring upon death to us. Again, we will be reborn in different species of life. So vidya kule ki kori betar. What's the use? Narottam Das Thakur says, just like Govinda says in that bhajan, Bhajahu Remana Sri Nanda Nandana Bhai Charnar Vindare, E dhana yovana putra parijana ithe ki ache paratati re. So what is the use? Kamala dala jala jivana talamala bhajahu hari pada niti re. What is the use? Hey dhana of this wealth, hey dhana yovana of this youth, hey dhana yovana putra parijana, daughters and sons and relatives, hey dhana yovana putra parijana ithe ki ache paratiti re. In this material world, in this samsar, they are of no use. Ki kori betar. What is the use? Just like he's saying, vidya kule ki kori betar. E dhana yovana putra parijana ithe ki ache paratiti re. Kamala dala jala jivana talamala bhajahu hari pada niti re. So our life is just like on a leaf of a lotus leaf. When it rains, there is some drops of water that you can see. But how long can the drops of water stay on the beautiful shiny leaf of the lotus? After just maybe a couple seconds, it will simply glide down. So similarly, kamala dala jala jivana talamala. So that just like the drop of water is talmal on a lotus leaf, similarly our lives are like that. Jivana bhajahu. Therefore, I worship bhajahu hari pada nitire. Therefore, I worship the lotus feet of Hari. And Nityananda Prabhu is also Hari. He takes away all our misgivings through our acharyas. He takes away all. Nitai more, like Narottam Das Thakur in one more bhajan. glorifying Lord Nityananda. Aha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Kripa Balo Kana Karo Ami Bado Dukhi. At the end, that is the same bhav Narottam Das Thakur is expressing. Narottama Bado Dukhi Nitai More Karo Sukhi Rakho Ranga Charane Rapasa. So Nityananda Prabhu, please, is crying, the devotee. Prabhu Nityananda, oh Lord Nityananda, Premananda Sukhi, you are always full of bliss in Krishna Prema. Premananda Sukhi. Prem Ananda Sukhi. Kripa Balo Kana Karo. Please, I'm pleading, begging. Kripa Balo Kana Karo. Ami Bado Dukhi. I am full of miseries. So like this, see Sambandha nahi jar, Vritha janma gelo tar, Shahi Pashu Bado Durvachar, Nitai na bolilo mukhe, Majilo samsara sukhi, Vidya khule ki kori betar. Ahankare matto hoya, Nitai pada pashariya. Ashattare satya kori mani. So those persons who have got big vidya, big degrees, and they say, oh, I belong to this aristocratic family. हम नवाबों के फैमिली से जन्म लिया है, हम ब्राह्मण से हैं, हम हमारे दादा पर दादा बहुत बड़े राजा थे, विद्या कुले. So then what happens? Ahankar. That ahankar, that false prestige will seep in us, and we will be matta hoya, intoxicated. Most people who have got a lot of money, most people who have a lot of vidya, material knowledge, they become very ahankara matta. Our Chaitanya Charan Das, ahankara matta hoya. Nitai pada pasariya. Nitai pad, Prabhupada is representation of Nitai pad. Prabhupada, what does it mean? Prabhupada means Prabhu is Lord Nityananda. Prabhu is Sri Krishna. Pada means the lotus feet. One who has surrendered completely to the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to Sri Krishna Nandanandan, to Srimati Radharani, is known as Prabhupada. Prabhupada is not an ordinary title. It is only given, like it is Rup Goswami Prabhupada, Sanatan Goswami Prabhupada, Jiva Goswami Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So ahankara matta hoya. We have so much false prestige. Even when we take to spiritual life, just because we know a little bit more, we think that we have known everything. We're ready to teach Guru, to teach Prabhupada, finding fault in Prabhupada. Ahankara matta hoya. Materially, the people do that. Even once we have taken to spirituality, Maya doesn't leave us so easily. Nitai pada pasharya, because we have gone astray from the lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu. Asattare satya kori mani. And we have taken what is illusion to be true. What is illusion to be true? Oh, I am this big Brahman, Vachaspati. But no, that is not your identity. Identity is Mahaprabhu, what he says. Jivarshwarva Krishna Nityadas. But I am this, I am that. That means asattare satya kori mani. Nitayar karuna hove braje Radha Krishna pabe. If Nityanand Prabhu has mercy, has showered his mercy, then in Vraj we will obtain the association and the service of Radha Krishna. What an amazing realization Narottam Das Thakur has given us. That means if gurus, pure gurus and acharyas have mercy, yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado yasya aprasadan na gati kutopi. Dhayanstuam yasyastri sandhyam vande guru Sri Charnaravindam. Quoting Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti in the Gurvashtakam, the last verse, verse number 8. Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado. When we get the mercy of the pure guru, the acharya, it is bhagavad prasado. It is the prasad of Nityananda Prabhu, prasad of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, prasad of Nandanandan Krishna, prasad of Radharani. Yasya prasad bhagavad, yasya aprasadan na gati kutopi. And if I do not get your mercy, oh Acharya Dev, then na gati kutopi. I will be lost. There will be no destination, no spiritual destination for me. So that is the reason why Nitayar Karuna Hobe. Gurudev, the pure Gurudev is an extension, the via media of pure Nityanand Prabhu's mercy and Karuna. And then what will happen? Braje Radha Krishna Pave. So how we can get the obtained Braje Radha Krishna Prabhu? Braje Radha Krishna? How? So Braje Radha Krishna means in Manjari or Gopi Bhav, we will get entrance. So Nityananda Prabhu is Balram, and in the Madhurya Rasa, he is Ananga Manjari, the younger sister of Radharani. So she knows all the perfect services. Nikunja yuno rati ke li siddhya yaya libhi yukti rapekshaniya tatrati dakshadati vallabhasya vande guru Sri Chaitanaya. So these gopis and these manjaris, they know the perfect service of Radha and Krishna in the Nikunja, in their special meetings, in the bowers, in the kunjas of Vrindavan. They are experts. So it is through the agency of Ananga Manjari, who is none other than Balram, who is none other than Nityananda Prabhu, and through the acharyas, we get the association and seva of Radha and Krishna in Braj. So Braj, Bhumi here in Vrindavan Dham, and Braj, eternal in Golok Vrindavan. And in the last verse, Nityananda Prabhu, glorification, Narottam Das Thakur says, Nitayar Charana Satya, Tahara Shivaka Nitya, Nitai Pada Sada Karo Asha. The lotus feet of Lord Nityananda Prabhu is the truth. Satyam Param Dhimai. Vyasdev, when he opens the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first verse, the last line of the first is Satyam Param Dhimai. What is Satyam Param means? The eternal truth. Satyam Param. And as far as Krishna or Krishna's expansions or his internal associates or his Nija Shaktis or his Swarupas, Lord Nityananda is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Bhakta Rupa, and Lord Nityananda is Bhakta Swarupa. So this Bhakta Swarupa, he came as a devotee, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came as Bhakta Rupa. He also came as a devotee, and Lord Nityananda also came as a devotee. But it is because they are eternal. Wherever they are, therefore their lotus feet are eternal. Their teachings are Nitayar Charana Satya means when we are surrendering to Sri Guru, then it will take us to eternality. And Tahara Sevaka Nitya. And your servants, O Nityananda Prabhu, the Vaishnavas, they are also Nitya. Nitya in Nitya Seva, Nitya Kirtan, Nitya everything for the pleasure of Radha Krishna. Narottama Bado Dukhi, last two lines. Nitai More Koro Sukhi. So Narottam Das is very much in distress. He is very unhappy. Bado Dukhi. Extremely unhappy. Nitai More Koro Sukhi. So humble again. But actually Narottam Das Thakur is none other than he is one of the manjaris, one of the servitors of Radharani. So Narottam Das Thakur said, Narottam Bado Dukhi, Nitai More Koro Sukhi. Please make me happy. How? By giving me money, giving me name, fame? No. He's saying, Rakho, Ranga, Charanera Pasha. Please keep me at your wonderful colored lotus feet. Because the lotus feet of Krishna, Nityananda Prabhu, or as a matter of fact, any of his expansions or any of his avatars, they are like lotus, like a pink lotus, soft. And the color is pinkish. And sometimes they also decorated with lac. What is that word in lac? I forgot the word in Bangla. There is a particular word. So they decorate it with lac. So Ranga, the wonderful, colorful feet, Rakho Ranga, please keep me at your lotus feet. That way I will become very happy, O Nityananda Prabhu. Same thing. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is praying in the mood in Sixtastakam. In fifth verse, Ainanda Tanuja Kim Karo Patitamam Vishame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Stita Dulim Sadrisham Vichintaya. Meaning, he's praying that I am drowning in this material ocean of nescience, of avidya. Mahaprabhu is taking a humble stance himself. And he's saying that I means with a cry, just like, ha ha, Nityananda, Premananda Sukhi, I, Nanda Tanuja, O son of Nanda Maharaj, Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja, at your lotus feet, Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Sadrisham Dhuli, like a little speck of dust. Please give me ashray. Please keep me. Because if you keep me at your lotus feet, then I will become perfect. So keeping me at lotus feet is, that means we are surrendering to the lotus feet. And that is why Prabhupada is called Prabhupada. He has surrendered to Krishna Prabhu, to Nityananda Prabhu. And therefore, fully surrendered personalities are called Prabhupada. So this is a 4-verse a poem by Narottam Das Thakur glorifying Lord Nityananda. So happy Nityananda Trayadashi to all. Nityanand Prabhu ki jai. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.